And we are back on the WHHI-TV Daily News. Well, we know that sometimes abandoned boats can be a big problem, and here to talk to us about that very thing is the Director of Outreach for BoatUS, Alanna Keating. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Betsy, for having me.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that because, you know, in our area, we have seen many a boat that has kind of been abandoned and is drifting or is on its side. What are some of the impacts environmentally that has, and what do we need to do about it?
Absolutely. So the impacts can range from something as simple as being a navigation hazard, or if there is oil or fuel left in the boat, any leakage, but it can also be damage to submerged vegetation, the water column bottom that could impact sensitive habitats for different species. And then it can get moved around during storms and things like that and continue to cause damage in other areas. It's really important for communities to be able to have the opportunity to remove these vessels as quickly as possible so that the impact is reduced and they can get back to the normal habitat faster.
Yeah, and so talk to us a little about the mission of BoatUS and what you're trying to do about this.
Absolutely. So BoatUS Foundation is a national nonprofit organization, and we educate boaters across the country about safe and clean boating topics, ranging from safe navigation to things like abandoned and derelict vessels. And we were privileged to receive a grant from NOAA through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law funding to launch a new abandoned and derelict vessel program. Okay. And one of the components of that program is to provide funding to communities across the country that need to have ADVs removed in their area. And our opportunity and why we were so passionate about this project is that federal funding is hard to get for many organizations, for many communities. They don't have grant writers on staff. They don't have the resources to apply for that kind of funding. So we're removing those barriers so that those communities that typically would not be eligible for funding, or businesses or nonprofits, can have access to that money and be able to remove the ADVs in their area.
If a local organization is looking to kind of get some of that money for a project that speaks to this issue, how do they go about applying and how do they qualify?
Absolutely. So the grant is open to any for-profit, nonprofit business, community, state, locality, tribal, and everybody can go to our website, boatus.org/ADV grant. And there's more information about the project as a whole, as well as how to apply, the guidelines for applying, everything we need to know. We're right now accepting letters of intent. It's a shorter, easier proposal so we can really see the projects that are there and then work with the communities and the organizations for full applications.
What are you projecting the positive impact is going to be from these projects that you're funding?
We're so excited. We have about $7.5 million to give across the country to coastal areas and the Great Lakes. We feel like that's going to make a huge impact, especially on those communities that have never been able to access the funding in the past. Right. We don't have a number of how many vessels we'll remove because it all depends on the proposals we receive. But we're excited to document the process of what we're doing to quantify the problem of ADVs across the country and really have an action plan moving forward of how this is going to impact communities long term.
Is there some tips that you would give to a person before they decide to abandon their boat so that we don't have that as a problem?
Yeah, so part of the grant is actually to work towards prevention of abandoned boats. Abandoned boats happen for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it's an aging boat that's not able to be maintained. It's too costly to dispose of. Other times it's a housing issue. They're used for people to live on in areas where rent might not be accessible. And then aging populations, mental health issues. There's so many contributing factors to how abandoned vessels happen. Boaters, responsible boaters, don't want to abandon their boat, and they don't want abandoned boats around. Part of the grant is also to look at what are the causes of ADVs, how do we quantify the problem, and also how do we work towards disposal solutions to help prevent those from happening.
Well, thank you so much for being here to talk about this very important issue, and we appreciate the work that you're doing.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks to everyone on the show today for their insights and contributions. As always, our production team is behind the scenes to make all of this possible. And of course, we are honored that you have chosen to share a part of your day with us. I'm Betsy McDaniel, and we'll see you for the next WHHI-TV Daily News.